Chrissy was at my house. He had spent the night, and this was actually the first real night we had spent together. All the other previous times was me going over there, getting him while he was drunk, or him coming over and he was drunk, but he always had left, or I always had left. So this was the first real night that we were able to spend time with each other and not really worry about anything else. I think she was, dating or something like that. I get a bang on my door. And with previous history proving itself, I knew already in the back of my head who it was. I gently shake Chrissy awake just a little bit, and I tell him to not look out the window, don't get up, she's at the door, I will be right back. I did look out my window just in case I was wrong, but I was right. I looked out my window and I saw her standing there with somebody else. Upon closer look, I see that it's my friend, the one who introduced Chrissy and I. I thought that was weird because he had expressed previously that he did not like her or care for her company, so it was a weird picture to be looking at all hours in the morning. But I opened my door and I'm like, "What do you want?" She asked if Chrissy was there. I said, "No, he's not here." She was like, "Well, I'm sure that's a lie. But if you can tell him something happened to his brother, and I think he needs to know. He's not picking up his phone or answering me." In the back of my mind, I'm like, for obvious reasons, you cunt. But I said, "Okay, what's the message?" She says, "Chrissy's brother died last night in his sleep, and everybody is sad and freaking out, and I think he's the last one to know." I stood kind of in shock. She had always been the person to cry wolf and make up stories just to get to him. So I just said, "Okay, I'll tell him," and I shut the door in her face. I waited a little bit before waking him up because when I walked back into my bedroom and I peeked out my window, which had a full view of the front of my house and into the street, she lingered on my porch for a little while and then sat in her car for a little while. So I fully waited until she drove away to go back to her stupid little bat cave. And then that's when I woke up Chrissy. I told him to check his phone because something important might have happened. He did ask who was at the door, and I told him it was her, and she said something really absurd. "I just want you to check your phone to see if anybody has messaged you." And it turns out, yes, she was right. The one time where I hoped that this was another one of her lies to get him to come home, he decided to go back after she had left. I dropped him off, and the days after they felt empty. She wouldn't stop texting me, he wouldn't stop texting me, our mutual friend wouldn't stop texting me, and he was explaining that he wanted me to be the one to be there for him, not her. And they got into a really huge conflict about that because I guess he had told her the same thing. And so she wouldn't stop texting me and he wouldn't stop texting me. I don't know where she went during the day of the funeral and the memorial service, but as those events got closer, she went practically ghost. But I was the one, and he introduced me to all of his family, which you got some good ones in there, you got some bad ones in there, but his family really liked me, and I could tell it was really important for him that they did, because all the other women that he's brought around, nobody ever really liked them except for his ex-wife. The members of his family that I particularly didn't care for, they didn't really like me, not like the rest of his family did. And I remember when we left, I had accidentally left my wallet there, and they went searching in my wallet and pulled out my ID to learn information about me. We all know this happened because they relayed all that information to his ex-wife, and then his ex-wife turned around and told the woman that he was currently trying to get away from. And then she turns around and tells him all of this new information that she somehow obtained. We all know what happened. And now I was getting weird text messages from his ex-wife. She did not like me either. She was definitely expecting me to leave after that, and it felt a little planned. Not in the sense of them finding or going through my wallet, but ever since that moment, it had felt like I was being ganged up on in their hopes that it would be too much for me to take on. I remember Chrissy making a comment about her being angrier at the fact that it was a few weeks after they had started this berating game, and that I was still happily by his side, laughing with him. He thought it was entertaining, to say the least. But once Christmas came and went, his brother being gone, his ex-wife and ex-girlfriend still blowing up my phone with derogatory, the heat started to get to him. He became really fed up with the way his life was going. He was getting fed up with the control and the threats. I became scared for him because this entire time, the possibility of him going to jail or going to prison, it was always there, but it was getting more serious. And I think we both realized that his freedom was at stake. He ended up messaging me saying that we couldn't continue until something changed with him and this chick, his ex, this monster, this control bipolar freak. She needed to be gone, and she refuses to leave him. He had finally gotten her to the point where she had said that she was going to start looking for other places to live, and she would be out of his house any day. As soon as somebody came through for her, she was going to leave. And that was a relief to both of us. But knowing her and the kind of things she likes to scheme and their diabolical need to ruin people's lives, that was still prevalent, that was still there. And even though we were excited that she was leaving, it was in the back of our minds that she wasn't going to leave quietly or without something very detrimental happening. And the only thing that would break us is if she had managed to actually get him to go to prison. There were some things that she could do, and he would be arrested on the spot for it. So it was a very tricky situation, and it was always that way, and that threat was always there, that reality was always there. But between them, when I say them, Chrissy's ex-wife, and then her always in my phone talking to me the way that they were, I think that clicked in his brain that he finally wanted her out of his life forever. So it's January, and she did manage to get him to go to jail.